All right, today we're going to go over something from the Ten Commandments. I bet you didn't know you could use the Ten Commandments to defend veganism. There's a couple in there that might help. Let's go over some of it. I'm sure you all heard of it. Everybody, even atheists, know the Ten Commandments. It's in the Old Testament. Remember, to the Jews, there really is no New Testament, so the Old Testament is not old anything. It's called the Hebrew Bible. So when you hear it talked about one way or another, it's just nice to say Hebrew Bible if I got Jewish listeners. But it's taught in the books of Exodus and Deuteronomy. Now, the third commandment in the Ten Commandments is to take a day of rest. It might be the fourth commandment, depending on what version you're reading. And, people always say the Bible's full of discrepancies. It's not a big deal. It means the same thing. Whether it's the third or fourth command, it's the same thing. Don't sweat the small stuff. Okay? So when you're talking, just say 10 commandments. If you just start with saying thou shalt not, everybody's going to know. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not use more than 1 can of hairspray per week. Guilty, I know. Back to the Ten Commandments. Remember, when I talk about understanding the Bible, remember the 5 W's, the who, what, when, where, why. That'll help you get around a lot of prejudices and misunderstandings, because it isn't how you and I may understand it. It's how did the people who heard this understand it. So the first who we're going to deal with is Moses. Moses comes down from Mount Sinai. That's the where. And he's bringing the 10 Commandments and delivering it to another group of who. That's going to be the slaves of Pharaoh. The slaves are Israel, are the Hebrews, are the Jews. See, that's why I was telling you about that Jew, Old Testament, New Testament stuff earlier. See, so that's the group of people. These people were slaves for 400 years. They only knew about the Babylonian gods that the pharaohs in Egypt taught them about. What the Christians would call false gods, pagan gods. Not even real gods, not even existent kinds of gods. Okay, so Moses is bringing them information, 10 commandments to them. That's what they believed. Now, one of the things these pagan gods, these Egyptian gods said was humans were created for the purpose of serving them. So they would labor, they would build, they would work from the time they wake up to all hours of the day. They would work themselves to death. Literally, they really would. And once they died, their kids would take over. And once the kids died, new kids would. It was just a never-ending circle of slavery. So these 10 commandments, one of them, this Sabbath, was very liberating. You'll see why. So these Egyptians taught that people were slaves and they had to work every single day, right? But their captivity is over. Moses got them out of there. Now they're going into the wilderness and on their way to the promised land, and they're being taught that they're now free people thanks to this God of Moses. So Moses is telling them with the 10 commandments that God has concern for their lives. So he gives them the Sabbath and says, keep the Sabbath. Now let me read you what it means from the book of Exodus, what it means to keep the Sabbath. And this is where we'll get to the vegan stuff. I'm sorry I had to give you the history, but it's important, at least for the vegan understanding, I think. Exodus chapter 20, verse 8. Here we go. Remember the Sabbath day, keep it holy. Now, when we hear holy, we think God stuff. And it doesn't always mean that. Sometimes it just means separate. Okay, so think about it like that. Remember the Sabbath day, keep it separate from all the other days. 6 days thou shalt labor and do all thy work. That's verse 9 and verse 10. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, nor, I'm not going to say the shalts, I'm just going to read it, okay? You should not do any work, nor your sons, nor your daughters, nor your manservants, or your maidservants, or your cattle, or the stranger that is within thy gates. That means if somebody's visiting you, like you got Uncle Harvey that's staying with you for the weekend or something. If they live in your house, nobody can work. Let's have another look at that in Deuteronomy. But on the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God, and in it you should not do any work, not you, your son, your daughter, your slaves, your manservants. It could say slave or manservant, depending on what translation you're going in. Your maidservant, and this is the vegan part, nor thine ox, or thy donkey, or thy cattle, or the stranger that is in the gates, yada, yada, yada. So The Deuteronomy account has a little bit more information about animals in there, but God is classifying the animals here as equal recipients to the day of rest, to this commandment. This commandment includes animals on the same level that it does for humans. There's no wiggle room here. The animals are the same. The same as the sons, the same as the daughters, the same as the uncle that's visiting you, that's crashing on your couch and won't go away. They're all equal when it comes to getting the 10 commandments. That's very liberating. So when Christian comes back and says humans are above animals, yeah, sure, but you know what? They're not so above animals that the animals don't get to rest. So you can ask that Christian mediator, do the slaughterhouses close their doors every 7 days and give the animals a day of rest from being slaughtered, from being hung upside down and stabbed in the throat? No, they don't. They kill around the clock. Shift after shift after shift. One group of employees goes out, another group comes in, they kill. Does that sound like keeping a day holy? Now, some pastors are going to teach that this is the start of human rights. Way back in the first few books of the Bible, that Moses is introducing human rights because it's saying sons and daughters. Remember, this is at a time when men were up here, women were down here, and cattle were much farther below them. This verse is putting everybody on an equal level. In God's eyes, he's treating everyone equally. You see, God is slowly dismantling the system that was introduced over here and getting it to where he wants. Is it perfect? No. I mean, by the time we get over here, it'll be a whole different thing. But you can see it's slowly going into the direction that God wants it to be for equality amongst all people. So the good news is it puts everybody on the same level, the same day of rest. But the messed up part is that the preachers just don't put animals in there. They'll teach that, yeah, God wants everybody to be equal. But one of the biggest complaints is, well, the Bible allows slavery. But like I said, God's fixing that. But the pastors don't want to talk about the animals getting fixed. And that's it. Animals getting fixed. Boy, that sounds like a spay and neuter kind of joke. I didn't mean to go there, did I? No. All right. But the animal situation, let's say, getting corrected. Is that better than saying fixed? I think so. Jeez, I was not cut out to talk like this. This is why I'm not a preacher. So what I'm trying to say is if Christians can claim that this commandment is the beginning of human rights, then vegans can claim that this commandment is also the beginning of animal rights. See how that works? All right, let's get more from the top 10. Let's go to the 10th commandment. It instructs people not to covet. And again, animals are included in the commandment not to covet. Let's look at Exodus chapter 20. That's the one I like to read. Pull it up on my computer here. If you see me leaning over, it's because I don't have my glasses on. I'm like, I should just expand it. I got a computer. I can make the font. Oh, that's nicer. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thy neighbor's wife. Well, I got a bunch of jokes I could do on that one too. Thy manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, his donkey, or anything that is his neighbor's. So God gave 10 commandments, and out of the 10 commandments, 2 of them so far include animals. The Sabbath and the one about coveting. As a vegan looks at it, that means we've got 2 verses where God considers animals valuable enough to include them in the 10 commandments. So why? Why wouldn't we think this is establishing the possibility that the 6th commandment, thou shalt not kill, includes animals? Now, they might come back and say, well, it says thou shalt not murder. And that's fine. Whether it says kill or murder, and I agree, it does. I think murder is a better translation of the word. But there's a period after that. It doesn't say thou shalt not murder humans. Thou shalt not murder thy wives or sons or daughters. No. Sons, daughters, maids, servants, oxes, they're all included in everything prior. Why aren't they included in thou shalt not murder? And remember, the word used for murder is the same one God used in Leviticus when he said if you don't kill an animal properly, it's considered murder. So I think that's a powerful way to use the 10 commandments to advocate for veganism. So we've got the 10 commandments, 2 of which do include animals. There's no wiggle room, no way out of that. And the other one, murder, there's no reason not to think it doesn't include them too. This is not one of my favorite arguments. I like it. I mean, I like it for fun because I like having this argument with other Christians who do enjoy having long discussions about this. I don't think it's the best defense when you're doing street activism and you got to hit it in, 3 to 5 minutes, maybe 7-minute conversation on the street. But sometimes it comes in handy. So I thought I'd do a video on it. Hopefully that gave you a little bit of information. The rest of this information, of course, is in my book, Pick It Up, Vegans versus the Verses. If you're an animal rights activist, atheist, or a Bible thumping fanatic like me, there's information in there you can use to help advocate veganism. So I did put in a shameless plug at the end of this video. I gotta make sure I do that more often. The people that help me with publicity are like saying, Steve, push your book more. So there, I'm pushing. Get off my case, public publicity, public people. Ugh. I just want to juggle and save animals. Ugh.